This is chapter 28, test review, and we're going to go through this real quick. So the political roots of the progressive movement lay in the Greenback Labor Party and the Populists. The Greenback Labor Party and the Populists kind of are the political roots for the progressive movement. Progressivism. The term progressivism is closely tied then also to the feminist movement and women's causes. We have then four people that are listed at the bottom in names and terms that you'll need to match up with. So if we go with David Phillips, he's in the United States Senate, and he's a muckraker who he's not in the United States Senate. He is a muckraker who exposes some of the corruptions in the United States Senate. Ida Tarbell exposes corruptions in the Standard Oil Company, Rockefeller's company. Lincoln Steffens exposes government in his book, The Shame of Our Cities and City Governments, especially St. Louis, and then Ray Stannard Baker. He writes about the continual struggle of African Americans, the condition of blacks. So those four muckrakers kind of match them up with what topic they chose to focus on. Lincoln Steffens, in his series of articles entitled The Shame of the Cities, unmasked corrupt alliances between big government and municipal governments, or big business and municipal governments. The muckrakers signified much about the nature of the progressive reform movement because they sought not to overthrow capitalism, but to cleanse it with democratic controls. So they didn't want to overthrow capitalism, but they wanted to fix it. That's muckrakers signifying their cause. The nature of the progressive reform movement is to cleanse and fix democracy, not overtake it with socialism. Most muckrakers believed that the primary function of the progressive attack on social ills was to make the public aware of these social problems. The leading progressive organization advocating prohibition of liquor was the WCTU, the Women Christian Temperance Union. This is advocating the prohibition of liquor. The public outcry after the horrible Triangle Shirtwaist Fire led to many states passing restrictions on female employment, protections for females as well, but restrictions on female employment in the clothing industry. President Theodore Roosevelt chose to label his reform proposals as the Square Deal. Teddy Roosevelt helped to end the 1902 strike in the coal mines by threatening to seize the mines and operate them with federal troops. So there was a bit of a crisis when Roosevelt was president between the strikers of coal mines and the owners of coal mines, and Roosevelt intervened by threatening to seize the mines from the owners and operate them with federal troops. One unusual and significant characteristic of the strike of coal mines was that the national government did not automatically side with the owners in this dispute. So Roosevelt's the first president not to just immediately side with the owners. Kind of took a bit of a middle ground approach and threatened, if you guys don't work this out, the government will just seize the whole industry. So it didn't automatically just side with the owners. Passage of the Meat Inspection Act was especially facilitated by the publication of Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. The real purpose of Teddy Roosevelt's assault on the trusts or the monopolies was to prove that government, not private business, rules the country. When Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle, he intended his book to focus attention on the plight of workers in the stockyards and the meatpacking industry. His focus was kind of on the plight of these migrants and the workers and the horrible conditions, but it ended up most people were just terrified and really upset by kind of the unsanitary conditions of the meat itself. Teddy Roosevelt weakened himself politically after the election in 1904 when he announced that he would not be a candidate for a third term. While President Theodore Roosevelt greatly increased the power and the prestige of the office of the presidency, he expanded the role of the presidency, increased the power and the prestige of the presidency. President Taft's foreign policy was dubbed the dollar diplomacy. So Roosevelt's was speak softly, carry a big stick, but Taft's was dollar diplomacy. And then Teddy Roosevelt, after taking 4 years off, does declare to run in 1912 because he feels that William Howard Taft has discarded Roosevelt's prior policies. So he feels a bit betrayed by his hand-picked successor, Taft. So he challenges Taft and wants to run to become president again. During that election, remember that Roosevelt loses the primary to Taft. Taft wins, and then Roosevelt decides to run as a third party, and that leads to Wilson, the Democrat, winning the election of 1912. Then we have a couple of potential short answers. Question that you should be familiar with. Why did journalistic muckrakers play such a large role in the progressive movement? What does their strategy of publicizing social programs or problems indicate about the strength and weakness of American progressivism? It also would be good for you to be able to label, answer this question, would you label Theodore Roosevelt as a radical, a liberal, a moderate, or a conservative? And explain your answer. Can you identify the 3 C's of President Roosevelt's square deal? Describe what he did to bring progressive reform action in each of these areas. Did the square deal succeed in its goal of using federal government to mediate between powerful interests? So the 3 C's and his going after corporations, protecting the consumer, and conservationism. Those are the 3 C's. Teddy Roosevelt is sometimes called the first modern president. Can you interpret this phrase and explain how it does fit Roosevelt's conduct in the office? And lastly, do you think Teddy Roosevelt's claim that Taft had abandoned his policies is fair? So that is a very, very short quiz. I might have you answer maybe 1 or 2 of those short answers at the end. You can choose which one. But it's basically 20 multiple choice questions and then maybe 1 or 2 short answers. That concludes the review for Chapter 28.